Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another intellectually stimulating episode of the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Esperanza Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. The intellectual teams today will be debating the motion, family planning should be introduced as a lesson to high school students. Quite a sensitive matter they're debating. Opposing this motion, we have General Mulinge High School.
And proposing the motion, we have Tala Boys High School. Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
Evans Mwendwa from Tala High School feels secure, protected, and safe because I strongly propose the motion that says family planning lessons should be introduced in schools today. First, family planning. This is the practice of controlling the ability to sire children, or number of children one has, and the intervals between their births, particularly by means of contraceptives. Sex is happening among young teens. It is a reality, and it is the bitter truth. It is the bitter truth. It is not for procreation, but for pleasure. Prevention is better than cure, as they say. Family planning lessons, when they are introduced in schools, will enable the students to get advices about sex and how to avoid the outcomes that may occur when the students have sex. For example, I would like to ask the parents in the house today, how many parents teach their children about family planning? And if parents don't and the school don't, then who will? Knowledge is power. Hence, family planning lessons are needed in school to give the students knowledge to prevent the effects that occur when the students have sex. Family planning lessons create awareness among the students. This will enable them to have the knowledge that if I have sex without using, let's say, a contraceptive, I'll be able to, if I am a boy, I'll be able to know that I'll be able to get a girl pregnant, or I will able to, if I'm a girl, to get pregnant. Family planning lessons will reduce early teenage pregnancies that may occur when students have sex. Statistics show that over 378,397 adolescent girls in Kenya, aged between 10 and 19 years, became pregnant between July 2010 and July 2017. Hence, if they were taught about family planning methods, they wouldn't get pregnant, and hence they will not have the problems that they are facing now. Family planning lessons will also reduce the maternal death. Everybody here knows that a young girl, she's not mature. She's not mature when she has sex to be able to have birth. This is because her hip bone, it is not strong to be able to allow the contraction that may occur in the uterus. Hence, the girl cannot have proper birth. Hence, she will have let's say a stillbirth or suffer from cesarean surgery. So, I strongly propose the motion that says family planning lesson should be introduced in schools. I rest my case.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
Family planning should be introduced as a lesson to high school students. My learned friend on the proposing side has tried his level best to give the definition of the motion. But I think this is the correct definition of the motion. There are 2 terms that we need to understand here. One is a family. A family is a basic and social unit of a community. Family planning. Family planning is the method of determining the number of children that one may have, either by use of natural methods or artificial methods. Sometimes I tend to ask myself one question: does early teenage pregnancy fall under family? Hence, family planning? And definitely, the answer is no. I, Raphael Lepate from the great General Mulinge High School, opposing the motion. First point, tubal ligation and vasectomy, tubal ligation for women and vasectomy for men. These are irreversible methods of family planning. Now, due to fun, adventure, leisure, and peer pressure, some students may try these methods of family planning, but with permanent sterility. This means that they will not be able to give children in future. And this is a psychological torture to a boy or a girl and to the community at large. Secondly, out of practice, it may lead to health problems, e.g., Depo-Provera, which causes high blood pressure, breast cancer, and also increases the chances of developing blood clots that moves to your lungs and also your brain. A 2009 study published in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology found that women who used Depo-Provera gained an average of 11 pounds over 3 years. Another research has also shown that if you are younger than 35 years of age and have received Depo-Provera for 4 to 5 years, then you may be at a slightly increased risk for developing breast cancer. This means that you should not use Depo-Provera as a long-term birth control method. And I still say that as Raphael Lepate opposed the motion that family planning should be introduced to high school students. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
Family planning, family planning, family planning. Why should we introduce family planning as a lesson to students? Sex is a reality. Teens engage in sex, so they know it. If they don't know it, then where do the pregnancies come from? My friend, you say that a family is a basic unit of a community. And if the teenage gets pregnant, won't it affect the family? Anyway, family planning should be introduced to schools as a lesson. Why? Students should know the effects of getting pregnant and how to prevent them. Pregnancies lead to school dropouts. Why? When a child gets pregnant, when a girl gets pregnant, she loves to drop out of school. If I quote a certain set book, Tumbo Lisiloshiba, in the story, Mame Bakari, Sarah is rejected by the principal because of being pregnant. So you want to tell me that girls, if they get pregnant, they should not be told about family planning? Family planning will help to reduce the abortions. Like, if they accidentally engage in sex, and the girl gets pregnant without using the contraceptives, it will lead the dropout of the girl from the school. If the girl child and the boy child, if the students are not taught about family planning, they will lead to an increase of population. These kids who are got by these kids, these kids who are got, they depend on the girl who is also a child. And how can baby depend on a baby? Which is impossible. In Kenya, we have a high population rate and a high poverty rate. Why? This is because of the high population rate, and the government cannot produce enough resources for the high population. In business, in the topic population, we learn the disadvantages of a young population, which is unemployment. My intelligent guy has said that if you receive Depo-Provera under the age of 35, you are likely to get breast cancer. Have you thought of the STIs, syphilis, which can lead to madness? Have you thought about the street kids who are out there suffering because they have no one to take care of them? To another point, these kids who are born, they depend on the child who has got them, which leads to high dependency rate. If the kid depends to the child, so the child will have to go and look for a job, which will be a manual work, which will also be a cheap job. Thank you.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for your rebuttal.
Family planning should be introduced as a lesson to high school students. I oppose this motion completely. I fail to understand why my fellow colleague from the opponent side, the first speaker, I think you never clearly understood the motion. Because the motion is saying family planning should be introduced to high school students as a lesson. You said that this motion, okay, if these students practice or they have sex at this particular age, remember that this motion or these lessons, when they are brought to school, they don't tell students to do sex at that particular moment. It is just teaching them on ways of planning their family in future life, not at that particular moment. If you tell me it is at that particular moment, it's like you're telling me that's like you're abusing the knowledge you're being given at that point. Not all students have got the same mindset. Yeah, of course, I don't disagree that this lesson is some kind of good, but some students might try to abuse the knowledge on the use of such contraceptive. For example, it will lead, if students know that they will not face consequences such as pregnancies, they will engage in irresponsible sexual behaviors. Yeah, especially girls, since they will not be fearing consequences such as pregnancies. And what will this lead? This will lead to increasing demands for promiscuity. Hence, later in future, it will lead to divorces in marriage. Yeah, since at that particular moment, students, as they are adults, they will not be able to survive with one partner since they are promiscuous at that particular moment. And this will show how unable they are to exercise their self-control regarding the sexual activities. The other point, I say that abuse on the knowledge of the use of contraceptives might lead to the barrenness of the women. Why am I saying this? A good example of such contraceptives, Postino 2. A research was done and showed that Postino 2 is only supposed to be taken once in a year and 3 times in a lifetime. For example, on 21st December 2009, a study was carried out by Daily Nation in Nairobi and proved that 58% of sexually active women misuse the Postino 2. They never used it in the right manner. So what does this mean? It means that 58% of women became barren. So I oppose the motion by saying that family planning should be introduced to high school students as a lesson. Melvin Baraza from Mulinge High School, I raise my case. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked that, considering the fact that the lessons on family planning are offered in other sources like churches and hospitals, is it still important for it to be introduced in high schools? The opposers have been asked that, considering between the year 2010 and 2017, UNFP gave the report that 378,379 girls in high school got pregnant, do they still think that family planning is not an important lesson in high school? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to answer your question.
Moses, Tala High School. I thank you, Kadhiani boys, for asking that question. Number 1, we all go to school to study. We need education on all spheres of life, okay? We need to be taught everything about life, everything. We should not leave any detail out, because tomorrow we shall leave school. Who will teach us about these things? No one, because our parents, most of them don't teach us, because they think we might indulge in some behaviors. Now, on to my first point. If we introduce family planning in schools, we shall learn about what the future expects from us, and thus we shall reduce the number of children being served by a family. Consider a family with 10 children, another family with 2. The family with 10 children has financial difficulties unless the parents are able. The family with 2 is stable. For example, if we're in high school, we pay a lot of money to come to school, but the family with 2 will have no problem. The country cannot support a large population. We are Kenya, we're still developing, and we know that. Come on, if we have more, let's say 3/4 of the population are children, we need education, we need food. Where will the money come from? We are still borrowing money from everywhere. We have debts everywhere. Please, we need to be taught these things so that we may save our future. Now, those girls who get pregnant while at school, they face stigmatization, isn't it? They are stigmatized by the society, friends, family, and even Sarah in the story was stigmatized by this principle. If we practice contraception and family planning methods by using, for example, if it's must you have sex by using safe methods, you don't get pregnant and no one stigmatizes you. His Honorable President Magufuli of Tanzania the other day said that a pregnant girl will not go back to school. What's that? That's stigmatization, that's dehumanization. So we need to adopt all these new methods so that we can be well off. And lastly, we look at our families. I will not mention, but we are many in my family. So you find that at school I've been told about family planning methods. And my parents or your parents continue starting children. Every now and then you're facing financial difficulties. So I will go educate my parents too, so that after they get the knowledge and realize we have enough number of children, they can practice family planning methods like vasectomy, so that if it's a must for them to have coitus, they do it safely and they don't get children, thus saving the population pressure and hence equal distribution of resources among all the families in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
I'd first like to answer you the second speaker, the question he asked. Okay, but I still think you guys have not understood this motion. We clearly asked, we clearly said teenage pregnancy does not fall under family or family planning. So next time, do ask a more reasonable question, because I don't think you have asked me any question. That's not a question for me. Okay. On to my first point. It will increase the spread of HIV and STIs. Okay. Recently, a research was done, and it gave a proof that women are more scared of getting pregnant than compared to STIs. In June 2014, a research was done by Dr. Mugodi from the University of Zimbabwe. And this research gave more proof, and this research was also carried in the following countries: Zimbabwe, Malawi, Zambia, Uganda, and South Africa. And this gave much of a proof. On to my second point. It creates unethical social behavior. How does it create unethical social behavior? An example is abortion. In 1979, in China, where a one-child policy was created, and that one-child policy, it really meant a lot. Because, can you tell me, a woman who has before gotten pregnant, that woman gets pregnant again, what is she supposed to do? Simply abort. Because it's a law, and a law is not meant to be defied. And this woman should really abort the child, because it's a law in their state. And I'd just like to urge you guys, you should, at least think of this woman who was just told to abort this child. And because, she has no power to go against the laws. But what is this woman supposed to do? But anyway, I'll rest my case. But I'm Veronica from General Mulinge High School. I rest my case. Thank you.
Proposition, you have 1 minute for a final submission.
About STIs, we've said family planning. When you're taught family planning control methods and measures which you can do and take so that you can control yourself from contracting STIs and from getting pregnant. Like using condoms will prevent you from getting pregnant and STIs. That's a proven fact by scientists. So please, all of you in the house, from judges, teachers, and my fellow students, let's all come together and support this motion so that we may save the future. We're not teaching them about family planning so that they may practice now, but for the future. We are trying to save our nation. Let's be like Indonesia, America, New Zealand, Guatemala, and we shall be great again. I believe if we come together, this is possible, and we can change the outlook of everyone on this. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for a final submission.
Raphael Epatei again from the great General Mulinge opposing the motion. I would wish that the third speaker, my learned friend on the proposing side, would have just clearly given us some example of some contraceptives that will assist us control STIs. I think it will be better and it will save us as especially Kenyans. Now, sometimes use of these contraceptives sometimes clearly indicates that we lack, sometimes we will lack self-control, because by the use of these, we have just been told about promiscuity, that we will not be able to control sometimes in future ourselves because we'll be used to these contraceptives a lot. Now, the research that we have been given, the research done by Dr. Mugodi, he has done a research in almost 5 countries in Africa. We are told Zambia, Uganda, South Africa, and Zimbabwe itself. The research also from China, that of the one-child policy. There's a law that was passed. That means that when such a policy is introduced in Kenya, some of you even could have not been born. So please, I would like to urge my friends that we cross over and let us oppose the motion that family planning should be introduced in schools as a lesson. Thank you.
Tala High School, Evans Mwendwa, good introduction, but you started on a very low tone, but that was a good introduction. You used the word Caesarean surgery. I think you meant cesarean section, so that is a correction. Richmond Ondehu, good introduction, good use of rhetoric questions to cross-examine. That was very good of you. And then Moses Kingo demonstrated passion and conviction in your speech, good mastery of content. Then I would also like you to quote the source that says that President Magufuli of Tanzania said that students who are pregnant should not go to school. It is important for you to quote that. Then General Mulinge High School, Raphael Napatei, good attempt, definition of terms, good introduction. Then you demonstrated passion and conviction in your work. You quoted from reliable sources showing that you have a mastery of your content. Then you also educated us on the methods of family planning and their effects, and that was very good. Melvin Baraza had passion and conviction, did the research on Postina too. You did that, and that was good. And then Veronica Onsomu had passion and conviction and good mastery of content. Thank you.
And the percentages are in. Let's appreciate St. John Tala High School for being awarded 67% by our judges. General Mulinge High School were awarded 69%, making them the winners of this debate. Let's appreciate them with a round of applause.
Congratulations to both schools on stage. That's it from us at the Great Debaters Contest. Keep the conversation going on. #GDC for SDGs. I have been your host, Esperanza Kapanga.
And I am Chris Boru. Until next time, stay tuned.